chandelier that had essentially fake candles in it.
Oh.
So the lights were for these bulbs that looked like flames, and it was on a dimmer. So I would play Haunted House where you'd turn it down real low and just have this candlelight and then just record the sounds of the doors opening and closing. So I'm like, yeah, that's what a ghost sound is, right? It's a creaky door.
So spooky.
And I'd make my own spooky Halloween tapes. And then I'm 6 years old thinking like, hey, let's play this. It'll really scare people. And it's just like a creaky door opening and closing.
Oh, I like that. You're real into spooks.
Yeah, it was spooky at a young age.
So spooky.
Well, let's keep the spookiness going and remain spooky in an old age. Middle age? Middle age.
Middle age.
Welcome, everyone, to a very spooky middle-aged episode of I Love This, You Should Too. My name is Indy, middle-aged Randhawa, and with me is Samantha, spooky Randhawa.
Aging, the scariest thing of all.
It really is. Absolutely. I can't think of a single thing scarier.
No, it's scary.
Your friends and family growing old and dying and hurting your back by sneezing.
This is the second episode that we have talked about our friends and family dying.
It's the scariest thing.
Well, Indy, what are we doing today?
We are continuing Spooktober, so that means we are going to talk about the Treehouse of Horror Part 2. Because we're just doing that for the mini episodes this month, because why not?
I love it.
And then I'm going to let you, Samantha, and you, the listeners, know what we will be watching for next week's deep dive into a movie.
Woohoo!
And if you don't listen to this podcast a lot, this is one of the short episodes where we preview something, and then next week we'll have a long episode where we really get into it. Too into it, usually. But first, let's talk. And I guess this is not going to be spoiler-free. We're going to spoil the Simpsons Halloween special Part 2, Treehouse of Horror II.
You've had time to see it.
Yes, because it aired in 1991 on Halloween Day. I think I remember this.
Really?
But it doesn't seem like it could be right. But also, it was the 90s, so maybe that's why it seems wrong. Because I would be like 7. And I remember Galen, friend of the show, and a friend of mine.
Yes.
The two of us were trick-or-treating together. And we were like, oh, we have to go home because The Simpsons is on. So we took a half hour. We planned the loop to have a half-hour break to be at his house to watch Simpsons.
That sounds about right.
And then go continue our time. But that also seems like 7-year-olds are just like going around and doing their own thing and making their own schedules and meeting people where they feel like it. But I guess that was the 90s.
I was doing that in Sherwood Park when I was that age.
Okay. So I guess that was just it.
Yeah. I'd go out on my bike and you'd come home before it got dark. This is the rules.
I think that year I was Daredevil from Marvel.
Uh-huh.
And Galen was something from a commercial because it involved, I can't remember, there was a series of commercials, maybe it was Neo Citron, where there's a big St. Bernard that has like, the barrel of rum or whatever. And there was a guy with the dog in all of these commercials and Galen had that dog.
Oh.
So I think he had a themed costume on that.
Man,
that's a deep cut of 90s pop culture that I can't even remember.
Gubble's costume with his dog.
Yeah. Well, this is not interesting at all. So let's get into it and let's talk about Treehouse of Horror 2. We just watched the first one a week ago. How'd you like this one?
This one was good too. I don't think I've seen this one. I think I've only seen this one like once or twice. I don't think I've seen it as much as the first one, but it was fun. It was good. I think the first one, just because I've seen it and I like all the elements to it so much that's my favorite one, but this one was pretty good too.
So you like the first one better?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to really get into all of it, but you know what? I agree. And I think we are both in the minority on that one.
Really?
Because this one was good, but it lacked some of the darkness I love of the first one. And the first one, I liked the direction more. I think this one, the animation might be better because it's a year later, but also I'm not sure that it was because I think this was their first episode with a new animation house. In the first 4 years, they switched a few times and then they stuck with one for like a good 10 years and don't switch much after that. But this was an episode that the writing was good, and so many of the episodes are just like joke, and they go real quick. So many of the segments, that is. Yet they seem to be running short because there were parts in it where it seemed like they were stalling for time.
Yeah.
Like the two aliens laughing, I think that was a time issue. So they could have taken their time more, but didn't. And the direction in the first Treehouse of Horror was so specific to each segment. And here it did look Halloween-y. It's not like the new ones where it looks like a normal episode, but not to the extent of the first one. The first one, they were doing some real fun lighting things and using different colors that they normally don't.
And each story looked different.
Yes.
Whereas this one didn't.
More uniform.
Yeah.
All right, so this aired, like I said, on Halloween of 1991. It's a 7th episode in the 3rd season. We get those tombstones that become a tradition now. The ones this episode are Bambi's mom, Jim Morrison, Cajun cooking. I never quite got that.
No, me neither.
Maybe it was a fad in the late 80s and then was going away.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But still.
Walt Disney.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that one was like all frozen because the rumor is that he's cryogenically frozen.
His head's frozen, yeah.
Is that real?
Under Cinderella's castle.
Oh, well, that sounds less real.
Oh.
And then lose weight, ask me how.
Oh, yeah. That's a very, 90s thing.
And we get a disclaimer again in that style of Frankenstein. And this time Marge says, yeah, well, you didn't listen to me last time, so why would you now?
Yeah.
And I wonder how much complaints they got.
I was thinking about that because, to come back on and be like, we told you. Yeah. We gave you the disclaimer. I don't know what your issue is.
But they were so big. It was such a cultural touchstone of the time. And people were protesting this show like they protest wars now. It was wild that something that seems so innocuous as the first 3 seasons of The Simpsons was that big of a deal. But at the time it was.
Yeah.
That kid said hell. And everyone was so angry about it. Meanwhile, they're just bombing people willy-nilly.
Yeah, it's really interesting the things that people got upset about in the 90s.
And now.
But
you know what? We're just going to get into a whole thing. So let's just move
True.
on. I like the framing story of this one. We still have a framing story like the first one, but we're not in a treehouse anymore. They just come home and they're eating lots of candy and then they're going to have bad dreams. And Marge warns them. But I love when Homer says, 3 bad dreams. I'd like to see that. And then thunder crashes.
Yeah.
Did you like their costumes?
I thought they were funny. Yeah. It's very of the time. At first, I thought Bart was in blackface. And I was like, ooh, this was a time.
No, they wouldn't. That wouldn't even make sense. Just be a shirtless man with a black face.
Yeah.
No, he's an executioner.
Yeah, I figured that out.
Although that look being an executioner, I think, is something that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
I think if you were wearing that now, no one would be like, oh, yeah, an executioner.
And then Lisa's totem pole costume was pretty funny.
That was good. She did it to pay honor to the resourceful
Northwest.
indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah,
she has
which is
this little
so
spiel.
funny.
And I was like, yeah,
I like that. And then Maggie as a witch. That's they were pretty cute. I liked those set of costumes once I got over realizing that Bart didn't have blackface because he peels his mask. He peels his mask off, so I figured it out quick.
Yeah, I know you haven't watched early Simpsons, but you don't have to worry about any of the characters being in blackface. That doesn't happen. So the first one is Lisa's Nightmare, and that is the monkey paw one, which on an episode of the show, I explained to you the monkey paw story, and it is based on a short story. I don't know why we were talking about it.
I don't either, but maybe it was another Spooktober or something.
I don't think it was. I think it was a romantic comedy that I wanted rewritten, and my suggestion was to put in some sort of monkey's paw.
Okay.
That seems just as likely. So they're in Marrakesh, I think? Yeah, they're in Morocco, and he has to pay $2 American for trying to smuggle all that stuff out.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny, and the family going somewhere other than Springfield was fun.
Now they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Too often, I'd say. I think this one starts with Bart having his I could do that, but I just don't want to.
Yeah.
Which I use all the time. And of course, they have all these wishes and they go bad. The first wish, Maggie wishes for a new pacifier.
Yes.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, and Homer thinks that he's getting a fancy new car.
And then they are rich and famous, and this is just a little segment poking fun of how the real world actually was at the time and having a sense of humor of how much merchandising was going on by The Simpsons then.
Yeah.
Because in this, he has a shirt that's $18 and just goes, what a ripoff. Now I'd pay $18 for a Simpsons shirt.
Yeah.
That's a good deal now.
It would be like 40 or 50 bucks now.
I think they had an album or maybe even two by this point, but in this episode they released Simpsons Go Calypso.
Oh.
And that song of Homer just going, man smart, woman is smarter. Terrible. Terrible. And that's why it was funny.
Yeah.
Or the get a mammogram man billboard. Is there nothing they won't do?
Yeah, those are pretty funny. And the people's comments to how big the Simpsons were like, they were funny, and you could tell that they were just commentary.
At first they were just annoying, but now I wish they were dead.
Yeah. And I feel like that still exists today with like Kardashians and like any reality TV people. It's like, oh, they're annoying, and like I don't want to hear about them anymore, and like that kind of thing. I feel like it's still happening.
Oh, sure. There's so many things I'm sick of. And Lisa eventually wishes for world peace, which Homer says is very, very selfish.
But even that finds a way to go bad.
Yeah, so King and Kodos come back, and they have that scene where they laugh way too long, so I think that must have been a time thing.
I did think that was like an awkward amount of time to be watching them laugh.
And when they arrive, they say they come in the spirit of hostility and menace.
Yeah.
Which I also really like. And just people going like, oh, I wish we saved an A-bomb or two. And the thing that is going to eventually save them is Moe with a board with a nail through it.
Yeah, it's like the only weapon left on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was funny that's what it was.
And I love when the aliens have their kind of going away thing of like, yes, but soon they'll create a board with a nail so large that'll wipe out all of humanity. And they laugh and run and fly away.
Yeah.
Oh, and Homer gets his turkey sandwich, which I thought was a funny bit too. But the turkey was a little dry.
Classic monkey paw wish.
Man, we are sleepy today, huh?
We are. We're in a very sleepy mood right now.
And I don't have notes, but I can remember it.
Yeah.
I thought I wrote notes during this.
You did. You were muttering to yourself the entire time.
No, that was just me going slowly insane.
No, you were talking to your phone.
So Lisa wakes up. That was Lisa's dream, I think, and crawls into bed with Bart. And he charges her a candy necklace to get in.
Yeah.
And I love that. In his sleep, he just chews it up and pulls out the string.
Yeah.
I thought that was always really funny.
Like very efficient.
And another line, which I use a lot, less talk, more sleep.
Yeah. You say that to me sometimes.
Oh, it's usually the opposite. I'm always talking and you want to go to sleep.
True.
So the plot of his nightmare is a Twilight Zone episode parody again. And this one, I think, was an episode of the show and then also a segment in the Twilight Zone movie. I'm pretty sure. And it even has the narrator in a Rod Serling kind of voice. We need to watch some Twilight Zone. I think they're so good. I don't think you'll like them at all.
We'll see.
I don't know that we will. I don't think I'll be able to get you to agree to watch them.
Oh, well, I'd give one a try.
If I can't get you to watch X-Files, I don't think you're going to watch Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I didn't love X-Files. I enjoyed the premise of this one. I thought it was kind of fun and like kind of written from a kid's perspective, which was like fun because like a lot of times you'll get shows that are written by adults about kids. This one felt like it was like what a like 9-year-old boy would actually do.
So in your mind, the most realistic portrayal of a child is a monster who will destroy people's lives without thinking about it.
No. I just mean like it was just fun because these are things that he would like a 9-year-old child would do if they had unlimited power.
Yeah, destroying everything.
Yeah, I guess.
I love one of the first gags about the test where the history has to be changed to correspond with Bart's answers. And America is now called Bonerland.
Yeah.
It was discovered by some guy.
Some guy. In like the 80s, was it? Or the 40s? It was something recent, but yeah, it was funny. And then you see later in the episode something like Bonerland something.
Oh, yeah, on Marvin Monroe's door, it says, member of the Bonerland Medical Association.
Yes.
But before they go to Dr. Monroe, who was in the first season, he was like a regular character, and then they killed him off. It's like a character that actually dies in the show.
Oh, really?
But he doesn't die in the show, I don't think.
He's just dead.
They mention him being dead.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
I love the bit of, and now the ball is turning into a fat, bald guy.
Yeah. I liked that he just like teleported him to football. That's funny.
And then Homer attempts to murder him.
Yeah.
Says, don't even think. Just walk up behind him and bash his head in with a chair.
Yeah.
I think Bart has hit Homer with a chair over the head more often than vice versa.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's happened with multiple times.
Okay.
Homer's more of a strangler.
Yes, I do know that about Homer.
And then they go to see the child psychologist, Dr. Marvin Monroe, and they become friends.
Yeah.
They go fishing, they go to baseball games, and it's like, I get it, the gag, but it's also super sad that Bart's worst nightmare is becoming close with his father, because then he wakes up screaming. That was his nightmare. But, it's just a laugh.
It's just a laugh.
I think my favorite part about that one was the homage to Twilight Zone stuff with the Rod Serling voice and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one was the only one that was like a little bit different than just a normal Simpsons episode, because it had the narrator voice and everything. And then we get Homer's bad dream.
Oh, yeah, because he is thinking about work because he has to go to work in the morning. And it's like a mashup of Frankenstein and The Thing with Two Heads. I just like the premise of Mr. Burns going out and trying to find a corpse, steal the brain, and make a robot out of it. I don't need any more backstory. They have some, but it's enough, and I love that. And when Smithers has like second thoughts, I guess, and keeps thinking like, oh, I heard something, which is clearly Homer, who's alive. And he does who is it? The Booger Man? And he's like, no, it's the man in the bag, sir. And he just beats him mercilessly with a shovel.
Yeah, until he's still.
And you know what always kind of grossed me out is when he's sawing the top of Homer's head off. And it just falls off and kind of like rolls around like the top of a coconut and has that like hollow sound to it.
Yeah.
That grossed me out a little bit.
What grossed me out was when Mr. Burns pulls his brain out of his like spinal column.
Oh, and says, I'm Davy Crockett.
Yeah.
And wears it on his head.
Yeah.
Oh, and the way it kind of pops.
Yeah. And like
spine pops.
A couple of his vertebrae come out. Like it was just like really gross to me. I felt that one kind of viscerally.
That makes sense. And he uses an ice cream scoop because it isn't rocket science. It's brain surgery.
Yeah. I thought that was funny too.
And back at home, the kids are watching Johnny Carson, which I think then that shows that The Simpsons has been around for 4 Tonight Show hosts.
No.
It's Johnny Carson, then Jay Leno, then briefly Conan.
Yeah.
And then Jay Leno again, and then Jimmy Fallon now?
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, Simpsons still going.
It's going to last forever, isn't it?
Have no fear, they've got stories for years. And there's 2 montages in this little segment that I like, both of them, and they both use the same kind of joke of, first when they're building the monster, it's like them welding and doing all the real work, and then a little clip of them eating pizza and mixed in with it. Just like later when the robot falls on Burns and he's saying like, oh, I can't feel my legs, and listing all these terrible things, and then slight loss of appetite.
Yeah. Also, I love the like ongoing joke that Mr. Burns is so brittle.
Yeah, and the scene of him trying to run away from the falling robot is really fun.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to run, but he's making no progress at all. And then he wakes up and Mr. Burns is attached to his body.
Which is terrifying.
And I guess it wasn't a dream after all. And then we get the next week on The Simpsons, and it's as if they are still attached.
Which is funny.
And he wants to go to a spaghetti dinner, but some royal person's in town.
Oh, Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands.
Oh, the Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands, yes. I always thought this was one of my favorites, but I don't think it's a top 5. We'll have to see, because we're going to keep doing this forever.
Okay, sounds good.
I feel like I know which one is my favorite, but we'll see when we get there. This one, I think, is the only Treehouse of Horror where nobody dies.
Really?
Like, nobody died in this one, if you assume that
Mr. Burns lives?
Can live on his head there.
Interesting.
I wonder if they got a lot of complaints after the first one.
Probably they had to pull some stuff back just to appease the masses of angry moms.
It did seem less straight horror than the first one.
Yeah, I liked how classic horror the first one was. Like Aliens and Edgar Allan Poe and yeah, it just felt more classic.
Well, maybe we should just keep this episode moving because we're not doing our best work. I gotta say,
sorry guys.
We're talking about The Simpsons. All I want to do though is just read the script and be like, oh, remember this? That's great. Oh, remember this? That's great. I don't have as much to add. Like on the first one, there was more to read into it.
Yeah,
this one was just funny. It's just good.
I liked it. It was fun. I think the first one is still better.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, Indy, what are we watching for next week? What's our spooky movie?
Oh, I like that voice. You get a little bit of an accent at the end there, too, even.
Yeah.
We are going to take a look at the movie Hereditary.
Oh.
This is a movie you know. And do you know anything about this movie?
No. Other than that it's a horror movie and it's called Hereditary.
All right.
I don't even know that I've seen like a poster or like a photo of it.
So this is a movie that I don't know as well as people assume I know. I feel like if you watch horror movies at all, people are like, oh, you're the horror movie guy. And I just appreciate them just like I appreciate all movies. I'm not a particular horror movie person, but if you hold the same regard for horror as drama, then you are like a horror movie person.
Right.
So I think that's where I fall in. But this movie is divisive in the horror movie community and not terribly big outside of it because you don't know it. And it's not like this is some little unknown movie. It's very well known and did well for a movie of this type in theaters and box office and whatever. I assume. You know what? I'm just saying that. I think that's true. A lot of people have seen it. It's not some little underground thing.
Right.
But it is a dramatic horror movie, so that's not for everyone. A lot of people won't watch those at all. I do forget what I was saying when I started this sentence because in the real world, we took a minute break in the middle because of coughing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people love this movie, say it is the best modern horror movie. A lot of people hate this movie and say this is what is wrong with the way horror movies are going. And then a lot of people, I think, ended up watching it expecting more of a fun horror. And then they got something that wasn't very fun and were upset about that.
Right.
I, oddly enough, am not hard on, like, this is the greatest ever. I saw it only once. When it came out, I think I saw it in the theater and thought it was very good. And then a lot of people were really talking about it, and I don't always love to get involved when people get too angry about things. I'm like, yeah, it's a movie. And I know that's odd because I, talk about movies at least once a week on a podcast.
Yeah.
I love telling people what I think, but I don't argue.
No, you're not like aggressively passionate about it. You're just normal.
I would love to talk about people with any type of movie. And like when I argue movies with you or Galen and I argue about movies a lot, but I kind of like this and this and this is great. And then if you have good reasons why the opposite, I'm very interested in that. But people who are just very overreactionary and saying like, this means this for all of the world. And
right.
That's no fun.
Yeah.
That's all to say. I've only seen this movie once. I thought it was quite good. And I'm bringing this for you just as much as for me.
Okay.
Because this has become one of the touchstones of modern horror that a lot of people talk about and say that it is very important. And I saw it once and thought it was quite good, but I haven't really sat with it.
Oh, okay.
So I think it'll be a fun movie to watch and to talk about next week. It is available on Netflix. And I think once it went to Netflix is when it got much more popular.
Oh, because everybody had access to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was not a movie that was released widely. It's from that company A24 who a lot of film nerds love. And like, yeah, I got to admit, they do a lot of really, really good work. We've probably done 4 of their movies on this podcast. It was directed by Ari Aster, who makes some other horror type movies that are maybe a little niche, but some of which I really liked. Midsummer was his, that I thought was a very good movie. And it stars who I think really should be known as the modern Scream Queen, Toni Collette.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Because she isn't the one who's always the victim being chased around and screaming and crying as an axe murderer is after her. Because that's usually what it is. She is often the mom being put through hell in movies. But wow, does she do an amazing job of that. She, I think, is one of the most talented actresses. I think she's just amazing. Because we saw her, maybe you haven't seen her in a horror since The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, I think so.
And wasn't she so good in that?
Yeah, she was good in that.
She's amazing.
I'm excited to see her in another movie.
All right, so we are going to watch Hereditary, and we are going to talk all about it next week. And if you can just imagine how thick a stack of notes I'm bringing to this one.
Oh.
If all of my lack of preparation today is going to be remedied by next week's, because
he's bringing a textbook.
I might.
Okay, well, we will see you next week when we discuss Hereditary. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Ooh.
Oh, now I'm scared.